Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to another episode of our WCN Fluencer podcast. I'm your host, Christopher McClellan. You might know me as the bow tie guy, and yes, there is a bow tie under this long beard that desperately needs a trim, and that's happening on this Friday. But enough of that. I have a special guest today, Wes Michael from Rare Patient Voice. Wes, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Great to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I really love what you're doing, and goodness, you have a 10-year anniversary this year. Congratulations.
I know. It's the usual. Seems like yesterday, right? And where did 10 years go?
Where did 10 years? Don't blink, and they're all of a sudden gone. So tell our listeners and our viewers about Rare Patient Voice.
So Rare Patient Voice is mostly, or in the past, or mostly now, in the market research space. We invite patients and their caregivers. Now, you guys are all familiar with caregivers, but sometimes we have to explain. We're talking like family, or we're not talking about professionals. It's
right.
The people who actually do the work. But patients and caregivers, we give them a chance to voice their opinions because we give them the opportunity to take surveys, to do interviews, typically on behalf of pharma companies, device companies like that are developing new products and services. And guess what? They used to just go to physicians because they prescribe and people take. Well, that's not the world anymore. Right. Somewhere along the line, thank goodness, people learned, hey, what about the people that use our products? What about the patients? What about the caregivers? Maybe we should talk to them. Maybe we need to market to them. Maybe we need to learn their issues. And anyway, we got into that space of, hey, let's we're kind of the middleman. We go to all these patient events and work with all these groups and sign people up. And so we have a database. We call it a panel in the market research world. Mm-hmm. And we have them organized by their disease and their condition and things like that. So if somebody comes to us and says, hey, we want patients or caregivers of somebody with lupus or somebody with hemophilia or whatever it might be, hundreds and hundreds of conditions, we send an email out to those folks and say, hey, there's an opportunity. And we pay folks at the rate of $120 an hour to take part. That's an increase. It was $100. And we said, it's been 10 years time to give the patients and the caregivers a raise, right?
Well, there you go.
We've had, right? So
happy anniversary. There you go.
So we passed along a raise. So folks get paid for it, and I guess the most important thing, and everybody thinks about, is confidentiality. We're out of business if we share people's.
Oh, most definitely.
So it really works well because we know who did the study because we send them a check. We know their name and address, but we don't hear any of their answers. They don't give us the answers to the survey. They do an interview, a Zoom call, a survey. Our client gets the answers, but they don't know who it is. They know and they get a long ID code. So it really protects everybody. Nobody needs to know your personal information or to be taught and track it back to who you are and where you live. So in any event, we talk more about it, but we've provided that opportunity. And from 10 years ago, when it was just me going to the MS walks in Albuquerque, and now we've got a team of folks, full-time and part-time. We've got 100,000 patients and caregivers. Now we're in multiple countries, and we've paid patients over $10 million. So it's 10th anniversary and $10 million that we've paid folks. It's kind of the Robin Hood. I mean, we love our clients, we love pharma and stuff, but they got some money. We're happy to distribute it back to the patients and caregivers.
Well, what's so amazing about this is caregivers have their voices heard, and with their experience, they're getting paid to help improve not only their lives but other people's lives. I think this is just utterly amazing.
It's funny. Sometimes people say, "Wait a minute, is this a scam? Why would anybody pay?"
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was like, if it's a scam, it's the world's worst designed scam. But no, your opinion as a caregiver or as a patient is quite valuable. Think if you're at a pharma company and you're all these MBAs and you're trying to launch a new product, and all your friends are. You don't know what the patient's going through. You don't know what's most important to them. You don't know how to word things. You don't know how the website. You need to go directly to the people themselves and learn that, because otherwise you'll be pulling an answer out of the air and you'll be wrong.
Exactly.
So the opinions are very valuable. And think of physicians. Obviously, their opinions are valuable too. Well, they're getting $300 plus for theirs, so why shouldn't the patients get something for theirs?
It's interesting. Over the years, I guess I've been in the space as a caregiver and now life after caregiving, that I've learned that the caregivers really are the CEO, the Chief Everything Officer. They have the most detailed information about their, and I'll use the generic term, care partner,
Sure.
that more so than what a physician or a nurse or a social worker could have. And why not tap into that that vast knowledge? And I also believe, pardon me, that the best information and referrals come from one caregiver to another.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny too because you hit caregivers at a lot of different stages. When it's a child disease, it's definitely the caregiver, typically the parent, mostly the mom. I mean, we love dads, but moms, how many moms give up careers, et cetera, to care for these folks? But so in that stage, you're talking a parent. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got dementia stuff. You're typically talking about either a spouse or partner, or typically a child, often the daughter, right?
Often a daughter.
For some reason. And then all in between, you've got everything else. You've got partners, spouses, things like. We have a friend of the family that's unfortunately had some very serious health issues. And we know him because our sons were friends, right? They were buddies. You know how you get to know the parents. And my wife has become his caregiver in the sense that he goes to the doctor and he's like, I don't know what they're talking about. He's a smart guy, but it's not his thing. She'll go and because he'll say, I don't have any questions. She'll go, what? Boom, 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 boom. So she really keeps him and finds out about treatment and asks questions. How does this get? Without him or without her, he would be in a much worse state. So you get caregivers, relationships all over the map, and it's true. They're as you say, the CEO. It's like they know what's going on. A lot of times more clear-eyed than the patient, right? So you need to get their
very much. I love these conversations because it allows the caregiver to kind of relate to their own specific journey. And I like to say, and I get your opinion on this, that when it comes to caregiving and caregivers, there are no strangers. The journeys may be different. We may not know each other personally, but we understand where we've been and where we're going. And that there's a comfort there in being able to share that type of information.
Well, we've also seen and I think it varies by age and disease and things like that, but there's an interesting connection between all these caregivers. Every disease is horrible, but there's a horrible disease, often childhood disease, spinal muscular atrophy, SMA. The good news is we get requests. I mean, somebody's working on treatment, right? So I have to say, every time we get a request, that's good news. I don't know how good it's going to be, but it's going to be an improvement. They wouldn't be working on it. Well, we've had lots of requests in that area, so there's been lots of steps forward. But I remember we had some people that were parents generally that were taking part in these studies, and then finally the client says, yeah, you could go out and ask them to refer others. Well, they all know all these parents know each other, support groups and advocacy groups and things. Overnight, we got like 40 more people for the next day, and that filled what they were looking for. Because the caregivers knew because it's as you say, they've connected. And I'm picturing in that case, I'm a mom of a kid. How did you do that? Oh, well, go here and you do this, and here. They need each other.
They need each other. It's a support group.
Yeah. So it's worked out great for us. People know other people, and from our point of view, we treat them well and we pay them, and they have a positive experience. Guess what? They tell other people about it. So,
it kind of proves the point. The best information and referral comes from one caregiver to another.
It does. Somebody that you trust says something, boom, you'll do it.
So I guess the studies go across the gamut. From you've mentioned dementia, you've mentioned a couple of rare diseases, but how can somebody get involved that's not not connected to other caregivers, or they're just new into the caregiving field?
Well, I mean, certainly what I recommend too is find out about the disease. There's typically an advocacy group. There's often several of them, and it's amazing. So many of the people that we work with, we recruited at an advocacy event. We did a study one time because 4 advocacy groups. Hey, what could they do? What do people expect of them, and what could they do better?
Mm-hmm.
And half of them said, I don't even know about an advocacy. I'm like, we recruited you at their event. You don't. So advocacy groups, I think they think everybody knows about them. Hey, I'm on diabetes, or I'm on the Lupus Foundation. They shouldn't assume that, because say you're being diagnosed, right? You're in the office. You're not hearing a word's being said. You're not hearing, and you can get help from this group, right? So they really need to, and the internet is a wonderful thing, right? You can find all these things, and some may be more. If there's multiple groups, some may be more, and some may be support groups. Some may be more. You fit in better. Whatever it might be. But that is the first thing. People come to us a lot of times, and we'll say, "Well, look, we're not an advocacy group. I can't help you with that, but let me point you in the right direction. People that know everything can help you." And some of these groups, it's not. Some of them are looking for treatments, right, or cures. Others, my wife worked for a while for one of the chapters, if you will, of the Kidney Foundation. They help people pay their heating bills. If it's, things, day-to-day things that are really important that you think of. That's not finding a cure, but if they can't get a car to dialysis,
it's those basic human needs.
They're just as important in all those ways. So that's the first thing. It's like, let's connect them with some of these groups, check them out, see some work about other, and then from our point of view, obviously we invite everybody to join Rare Patient Voice, because then at least they'll be invited to share their opinions and hopefully help progress the state of the disease.
And I would encourage I would encourage all caregivers to take a look at this, because there's something cathartic about being able to share your message, share your experience, and then on top of that, being able to get paid. Yeah. And I look back when I first started. 2011, the internet was there, but there was not as much information about caregiving as there is now. And to think that all those sleepless nights that caregivers have, and all those days that you end up missing for work, to be able to be compensated for your expertise and knowing that you're going to be helping somebody else, I think is just invaluable.
I love what you mentioned too about it can be cathartic, because we hear that from caregivers and from patients, because the families are kind of tired of hearing them talk, right? Or they've heard it over and over, and sometimes you're not going to say. It's almost like a therapist, a moderator for one of these interviews. They're knowledgeable, they're empathetic, and it's people love to open up and say. And a lot of people will tell us, I really enjoy, because we don't hear the interviews, we're not really listening, but they'll tell us that was so interesting. I mean, it really got me thinking hard about this issue and that issue, and and some people say, brought me to tears. I'm not complaining, but it really opened me up and really got me thinking about this. So it is an amazing thing just to be able to talk and share your experiences and know that other people need to hear that, because guess what? You're while it's unique, it's common too, right? There's elements of that certainly everybody else has gone through, and the more people can learn from that, the easier it will be for them.
I know my listeners have heard me say this a gazillion times, but it's through story sharing where diversity meets the road to collaborate on a common cause, and it's our stories that bind us together. Yeah. And the story that you're telling today, helps caregivers feel comfortable in reaching out and saying, you know what, the information I have is valuable, because caregiving happens in a moment's notice. I've yet to find anybody. This is my pat question that I ask all my guests. Have you met anybody that has caregiving on their bucket list of things to do in life? Right.
It hits you by surprise, right? Nobody's got it on. Well, next year we're going to be. No, it hits, and then all of a sudden, right? No. You've got to change your life around.
You've got to change your life. You've got to make those adjustments, and you end up getting involved in a system that most people aren't comfortable with, or they don't know. They don't know the social service system. They don't know the nonprofit system. dealing with medical and law and attorneys, all these things.
Insurance companies, right?
Oh,
That's
my
probably
God.
the thing caregivers have to help with the most.
We could do a whole segment on insurance companies.
And I don't get it. I give it all to my wife. I'm like, can you call them? Is this covered?
Could you call? Yeah, could you do that for me? But, so what's on the horizon for the next 10 years?
Well, just hopefully if it continues as it is. I mean, as I said, we just started expanding outside the U.S. We're in the big 5 countries in Europe: UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. And why not continue beyond that? Because we get requests for patients and caregivers for all these countries. Guess what? People get sick in countries outside the U.S., right? So, and companies need to treat them as well. So that's one thing. The other is, I said, we think of ourselves as market research. We're inviting people to surveys and interviews, but more and more we've been getting involved in informing people about clinical trials that are happening. I mean, if you have a condition, I'm not going to tell you to do it. I mean, you have to talk to your doctor. But hey, we could save some lives. People that take part, or the people that if they discover some life-saving treatments. So we're more starting to invite people to take a look at that. When people come to us with a certain disease category and a certain clinical trial, we'll invite people to that kind of event. So that's a whole big world out there that's somewhat new to us. So that'll be a new thing. The other thing is, we started by going to patient events. Then COVID hit, right? Nobody goes in person, and now some of the events are coming back. So I look forward to a lot of the in-person going on. Though we've gotten smarter about it over time. Some events we'd pay thousands of dollars and go and get 2 people. It's like, well, that's not a great.
That's not where the no.
So we're learning. That's why we love our referral partners. We've grown our referral partners. They can be an individual, they can be an advocacy group, they can be a foundation. But we give them a link so that we can track anybody they send. They get credit for it, and they get $10 each for that. You don't get rich, but some people make it a bit of a side job. And some organizations, there's a group, you'll love this. It's an MS group. It's called "We're Not Drunk, We Have MS." Right? Because you can imagine.
I need to have them on a show.
Oh yeah, they're terrific. So they've helped. They'll put it in their newsletter or their Facebook page from time to time, and we've paid them over, I don't know, $12,000-$15,000. That's not a huge amount for like the MS Society, but for them it helps them put on their events, and and we love them, and we have a special recruit. Hey, they're looking for people on a certain drug. We'll put the word out. They help us. So we look forward to enlarging that, because, as I say, patients know other patients, caregivers know other caregivers, and they spread the word for us, and that's how we've grown. And a lot of things are obvious now that I didn't know 10 years ago. Well, now we know them, so we can take advantage, right?
And as technology expands on a daily basis, there'll be other ways of reaching the people.
True.
But I'm really interested in that European side, because I'm looking to go across the pond, so we might have to have a little conversation.
Oh yeah. We'll have you keep your eyes open and see what you can find. Maybe you can spread the word for us.
Because it's interesting in Spain and Portugal per se. There's not really the caregiving is not translated.
Really?
Right. So it's a different connotation, yet the same activities. And then in England, the word carer is used. Yes. Which brings some real interesting conversation as well, especially when you're trying to type carer into a Word document. It goes to career.
Right. Carer. I can't hardly say it.
But this is a universal issue that I really believe binds people together. And we learn in those story sharings that, we're really not that all much different. We all want to experience 3 things: love, care, and commitment. And no matter what area, what you're from, what culture, those 3 things translate to caring for another person. And that's why I'm really excited about this expansion that it's going to be. You're going to learn. Oh my goodness, there's going to be so much that's going to be learned from this exchange. especially on the insurance side.
Oh my God! Well, I think it's easier over there.
Yes.
One thing that we've seen that I know kind of from my research days years ago, there's stereotypes about these countries. Well, there seems to be truth behind them. The Spanish and the Italians are happy to sign up and everything, and like the Germans are skeptical and such.
Skeptical.
And the English are a little bit like that, and the French are kind of in between. So it's like this different national characters come through as we talk to people.
Oh goodness, this is exciting. This is exciting to get a viewpoint from the other side of the pond. So goodness.
Right, and again, it's so important because we tend to be U.S. centric here, and we're a big, important country and all. But as I said, people are people, and they need treatment everywhere and need help. And let's hear what they have to say.
Yeah. So Wes, how can our listeners and our viewers learn more about Rare Patient Voice? Sign up for any surveys? Give us all your contact information.
Sure. The quickest and easiest way for all that is simply our website. It's rarepatientvoice.com. We try to put everything on there we can think of, but we're happy to take phone calls and emails because we put all that information there too, because people have questions. That's great, right? When people have questions, it's a wonderful thing. And if you go to that website, you'll see buttons, sign up here. So you click on those, and if you're, for example, a caregiver, it'll ask you, are you a patient or a caregiver? And we found out it's complicated. You can be a patient with X, Y, and Z, and a caregiver of 3 people. One has disease A, so we kind of take you through that to try to figure out everything you have to invite you as a patient or as a caregiver or as a caregiver to a person, all through that. So it takes you through that and asks you, most importantly, what's your contact information by email, because that's how we contact, and then disease information. Not a lot, because people won't sit still for a lot, but we don't need a lot. We just need enough to know to invite you to a certain study. So the most important thing is what diseases you or your loved one has. Right. But it's on the website, and we welcome questions. And then internationally, now we have that .com. There's the .global, and you can get to the Spanish one and the German one and the French one and the Italian one. So we got them covered. The Australians and New Zealanders, we have come to the American one, English language one, but it's almost a similar language. So.
And I can attest that your website is not only filled with great information, it's very easy to maneuver.
Good to hear that. One of the things we have on there that I love, and we also have a YouTube channel. Just search rarepatientvoice.com. A lot of our patients and caregivers make videos for us. Kind of a testimonial. Hey, I have this, and I'm doing this, and here's why I love to take part. But it just brings it to life, right? It's one thing to read it or see a statistic, but to hear an actual person,
right?
And it's so wonderful that people will do that for us.
I think our video podcast just might find that find its way to your video.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
We'll put it out there.
Wes, it is just terrific to meet you today and learn more about Rare Patient Voice. And you are certainly a WC influencer, and we'll have all your contact information in the show notes, and we'll be getting a landing page up on the Whole Care Network for you as well to be able to share your very important work. So thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks, Chris. I love the opportunity to spread the word.
So that's what we're all about, spreading the word.